Hi everyone, it's great to see some of you back. I hope you guys have been having a relatively great fall. I know we went from like really warm to really cold all of a sudden, and now we're having a pretty mild week again, which is great. But I hope you guys are preparing well for the holiday season. This topic is a really popular one, just because we know we're all affected by it in some way or another. I'm really happy to be back. For those of you that don't know me, I am a naturopathic doctor. I am the clinic owner of Inspired Wellness. It is a integrative health clinic just on the west end of Toronto near Trinity Bellwoods or King or Queen West. Because I'm a graduate of the naturopathic doctor college, the way I approach health is very different than what a family doctor may. Although I am a primary care physician, just as your family doctor is. The way I approach your health and well-being is actually more from a holistic standpoint, meaning we talk about your nutrition and lifestyle, mood, energy, your bowel movements, your hormones, basically all. I want to know everything about you. And my treatments usually include some sort of education. Education's a huge part of my practice, and that's why I love doing these webinars, because it's so important to me that my patients understand what we're talking about and why something is happening to their body. So a lot of that education piece comes from my treatment plans. I talk a lot about nutrition and lifestyle. We talk a lot about supplementation. So it could be nutrients, it could be herbs, could be any kind of deficiencies. I look at blood work. So from a medicinal standpoint, I am very similar to your family doctor, where I do look at blood work and analyze what's going on. But my treatments are slightly different, that I do not prescribe pharmaceuticals. It's more of that natural holistic root cause. So I'm here today with Well Street. Well Street is an amazing company we are trying to provide workplace wellness programs such as this webinar that I'm here to do today, but we'll also do wellness seminars about nutrition and weight loss and fitness programs. We have so many different opportunities for everyone to get involved at Well Street, but ultimately our goal is to get you feeling well, not only in your home and in your life, but also in your workplace, because we spend so much time in our workplace, and it's so important to me and everyone else that we actually get you feeling better, not only at home, but also in the workplace. Today's webinar is going to be talking about the holidays, and that might actually not be in the workplace or at home at all. It might be actually in other people's homes because you're going out for dinner parties or hosting dinner parties. And I want to make sure that you feel your best coming out of the holidays. So all our webinars, such as this one, is created by naturopathic doctors such as myself. We try to keep them all very scientifically based, very preventative, education based. But if there are any questions or concerns along the way, please do put them in the chat box. I'm happy to correspond as we go along. I hope that there will be some sort of interaction as we go along as well. I did put in some quizzes and questions, so hopefully we can keep you guys engaged. But if you guys have any questions, you want to reach out, always find me on Instagram, on Well Street, on everywhere you can find me. I'm happy to chat. You can find me at my clinic as well, Inspired Wellness. So now you've heard about me, you've heard about Well Street. I want to know a little bit about you guys. So tell me a little bit about your holiday eating scale. So on the scale of 1 to 10, and these are very extremes, where do you sit when it comes to the holidays in general? Number 1 would be more so like eating the same as throughout the year, saying no to every single sweets or goodies that come your way, not gaining a single pound of weight, feeling amazing going into January 1st and saying, I feel the best version of myself, and no digestive upset. So no bloating, no kind of gastroenteritis, nothing in the gut stuff that's going on. Or are you anywhere else on the scale? And number 10, again, these are extremes, so you can put these numbers down anywhere. So number 10 would be, you're eating way too much. You're saying yes to all the goodies and the sweets. You found that you increased your portions of how you eat. You've gained some unwanted weight, and you have digestive upset. You have some bloating. You feel tired, lethargic, very fatigued after the holidays. So where on this scale do you guys sit? Where do you guys feel like you're most closely finding yourself? And again, I'd love to hear from some of you. You could put it in the chat box if you're open to it. If not, like I'm okay with that as well. If you just want to maybe think about this and say like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm sitting at a certain number here and you just want to think about that, and that's totally fine as well. But I want you to think about where you sit on that 1 to 10. Maybe it's a 5, maybe it's a 3, maybe it's a 9, maybe it is a 10, maybe it's a 1. So think about that. Again, I would, if you guys want to share that in the chat box, wonderful. If not, no worries, just think about it. I want you guys to be aware of what we're going to talk about as we go along. So we have some 9s, we have some 4s. Okay, absolutely. Again, I want to know where you guys sit with all of this. 7, yep, totally. So we're going to talk about how we can improve some of these and keep you guys at that middle ground, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be at a 1, we don't want to be at a 10, we want to be relatively healthy for sure. So we're going to talk about how to eat healthier during this nutrition season and this holiday season and feel good this holiday season, because that's the most important. So let's talk about the French paradox. I'm sure some of you guys have actually heard about this phenomenon, or if someone has brought it up to you. It's something that it's an observation that the science has come out with, that French people have less heart disease, they have less obesity, even though their diets are actually in North America what we consider bad, quote unquote, because they eat tons of things such as cheese and lots of alcohol, and they do a lot of smoking, and they eat a lot of fatty foods and carbs. And the first thing in North America, at least, the moment someone's like, oh, I'm trying to be healthy, let's take away all the carbs, let's take away all of the cheeses and healthy fats and all of those things because I'm trying to be healthy. However, it seems that the French are actually healthier than most North Americans. So an experiment was conducted to find out why this paradox existed, and the researcher observed that people who were eating in restaurants in Paris versus Philadelphia, they found that Americans were very head down once the food was at the table. It was about shoveling as much as you can in your mouth. And the French, on the other hand, they took a much longer time to eat. Their portion sizes were smaller, and they would chat, they would drink some wine, they would take their time with their food. Like, food was an event. It wasn't like, okay, we have a plate in front of us, let's shove it in. So their portion sizes were smaller, they were eating significantly less, but they were also incorporating a lot of the healthy practices you should be from a general mindset perspective. So this brings us to the first tip, which is eat slowly. So in terms of holiday eating, we want to eat slowly like the French. So for you guys, on a general scale, how fast do you think you eat? Now, if I ask this to any of my family members, I know a lot of people will be like, I eat fast. I just gobble everything down and I try to eat as fast as I can. But what about you guys? What are you doing? Are you eating too fast? Are you eating too slowly? How quickly are you eating? Are you A, B, or C? Are you just pushing it all into your mouth? Are you the last one to be eating on the table? Are you fast, but not the first one done? Where do you guys sit? Okay, so we have a C, B, yeah, C, good. Okay, good. So a lot of you people are definitely eating on the slower end for sure. Fast, but not the first one done. Good. Okay, good. So now my next follow-up question is, how many of you guys take less than 20 minutes to eat, whether that be lunch, whether that be dinner, breakfast? Do you take more than 20 minutes or less than 20 minutes? Because that's a big number there. Less than 20 minutes. Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's a very, very common, more than 20 minutes. Okay, good. A lot of people eat less than 20 minutes, especially in our environment, just because we're always on a go, go, go scale. So the reason I ask 20 minutes is because it takes our body or our brain at least 20 minutes to realize you are actually full. And in fact, it actually allows your body to eat a portion that's right for you, because in that 20 minutes, you are giving your body that signal, your brain that signal that, okay, I'm full. and you'll slow down. So to eat slowly, you should actually aim to eat for at least 20 minutes to finish your meal, or even better, try for 30 minutes. You want to eat slowly so you can chew your food, you can actually break it down so your gut isn't impacted negatively, so it's not going to cause excess bloating. You don't want to just inhale your food and eat quickly as possible. Um, Now, I want you to also focus on a couple of other things. I want you to, like I said, chew your food. Put your fork down between every bite. Because if you do that, you're not just, your fork isn't ready to go when you're done in that mouth. You want to give your body that time to be like, chew it, okay, while you're chewing and swallowing, then you get your next bite ready. So put your fork down between every bite and enjoy. You don't want to pick up your fork until you've swallowed the previous bite, basically. Now, pay attention to the clock because when you are halfway done your plate, I want you to check the time. Ask yourself, has it been 10 minutes at least between the time that you started and finishing halfway your plate? If you are halfway and it's only been 5 minutes, put down your fork and wait until the next 10-minute mark to get to the second half of your plate. Again, give your body that time to realize if it's hungry or full. Now, it may not be hard or easy to change this habit at first, but keep reminding yourself it will eventually turn into something and you will do it without even thinking about it. Okay, so first tip was eat slowly. Now, our second tip, be social. Make your meals a social event. Now, how many of you guys actually eat at the table with family? This is something I had to change because I remember there was a time that I would just sit in front of the TV and like me and my husband would just gobble down food and we wouldn't really be interacting or talking about our day. It would happen after we were done eating that we would start talking about our day. But this is something we've changed recently and we love it. We love just sitting and talking about our day, seeing how everything went while we are eating our meal. So how many of you guys actually sit down and have a meal with your family? If not one, at least one or two. Because going back to that French paradox, the French place a really high value of social aspect to their meals. They treat each meal as a social event. So they're constantly doing it as a social event. How many of you guys are actually eating at a table with family or friends or anyone, even at lunchtime? Are you eating solo? Are you eating with some of your colleagues if you're working at the office? If you're at home, are you just on your own? So yeah, I eat with family. Okay, good. I think that's something that my parents have always done, that, we always eat as a family. But at lunch, I eat alone at my desk. Yes, unfortunately, that is a consequence of just doing virtual working, or even just like having limited people at the office now. There's not as many people to be social with. But it's extremely important because eating socially helps you eat slower. So that was our first tip, eat slow. So you're less likely to actually quote unquote pig out. And honestly, I don't know why we even use this term pig out. What did the pigs ever do to us to be stereotypically like that? So I don't think that's the right terminology, but you're less likely to eat too much. You're more likely to have breaks between your bites. You're more likely to have conversation, maybe drink some wine. You're more likely to feel relaxed and have better digestion. So you want to feel like you are interacting with people because you will digest better. I often have patients who have concerns about bloating or heartburn after a meal, and often it's this mindset that we have to change, along with a few other things, of course, supplementation wise. Maybe there's something going on with food sensitivities, but being social and being mindful about your food makes a huge difference. So, tip number 3 here is feel for fullness and aim for 80% full. Okay, you want to feel 80% full, never 100%. You want to feel 80%. Now, we know that a lot of our holiday gatherings often have to do with big buffets and a lot of food, or potlucks, or, large amounts of foods that you eat on a general basis. But on an average day, when do you actually stop eating? Do you stop eating when your plate is empty? Do you stop eating when you feel like it? Do you stop eating when you're full? Or do you stop eating when you can't eat another bite? So this is interesting because I want you to think about this from an average day, not on like a holiday perspective, but on an average day. Where do you guys sit? Yep. Okay. When you can't eat another bite, when you feel full, when the plate is empty. Yep. Honestly, a lot of us have grown up having that mentality that we have to finish when we have to finish our plate, like our plate needs to be empty. So we're going to go back to this French paradox because this is clearly a really good way to compare how we eat. But a group of researchers questioned people after their meals in both France and the US. Now, I understand in Canada, our portion sizes and everything are slightly different than the United States. I find that every time I travel to the States, their portion sizes are much, much larger than here, what we're used to here in Canada. But unfortunately, a lot of these studies are actually done mostly with Americans and Europeans, so we're going to go with it. But a group of researchers questioned people after their meals, both in France and US, and they asked them the exact same question. When do you stop eating? Now, Americans gave that the answer that we're very familiar with when I'm done, or when my plate is clean, or when I'm stuffed, or I'm full. Now, the French was their answers were mostly when I feel full. So I want to go through this other experiment that was done. It was called the bottomless bowl. And Americans were actually asked to eat a bowl of soup. And they didn't have to finish it. They could stop whenever they wanted. And the participants had no idea that some of the soup bowls were actually rigged to continue filling up from the bottom as they were eating it. Now, what happened is that most Americans didn't stop eating. They just kept going to the bottom of the bowl, waiting for the bottom. So they kept eating the soup. The ones who had self-filling bowls, they actually ended up eating 73% more than the ones who had regular bowls. But they didn't feel more full. In fact, they didn't even believe that they ate more than the others. They just said they were eating because their bowl wasn't empty yet, so they kept going. And this is a really interesting study, but if you guys are interested, we can always send you guys the article if you'd like. But it's just interesting to think that our mind plays these games, that we're so in tune with the fact that we should never be wasting food, or we should always be eating until our plate's empty, that we don't think about the cues that our body's giving. So we have external cues, which is the amount of food on the plate, and external cues could also be getting to the bottom of the plate or the bowl and eating what you see or what you want. Now, the internal cue that we should be focusing on is actually feeling full and be eating more in line with what your body needs. To help you start paying more attention to your hunger and fullness, you can use the scale. 10 means that you're extremely hungry, that you're going to pass out. And 1 is that you feel overstuffed, that you could burst. The kind of like what we say is itis or food coma after a big holiday meal, such as Thanksgiving or Christmas. So I usually recommend that people aim for that number 4, which is a satisfied, not hungry, not too full, I'm satiated. This can be a difficult one to tackle because, like I said, we have voices in our heads from our parents when we were younger that says, you can't leave the table until you're done, or no dessert until you finish your plate, right? This was a very common kind of um, language that we grew up with that was just like, do not leave the table until your plate is finished, right? And although we always should listen to our mothers, maybe it's not a good idea based on the research to actually listen to our mothers in this case. Now, I think situations are different, right? I feel like, when this was a concern, when people used to come up with this mentality, food wasn't easy to find, or if it was really expensive. And to be honest, with inflation, our food is already pretty expensive right now. But it was more so that, it came from a time of the Great Depression where foods like the meat and cheeses were extremely expensive, that more than they are today. And they wanted to obviously prevent wasting money. But it's more so that we should be thinking about mindfully about how we're actually feeling, and maybe don't put as much plate or food on your plate to begin with. We can get like cheap food for relatively cheap nowadays. But if you think about it, our unhealthy foods, such as Big Macs and cheeseburgers, all of those things, those are a lot bigger portions and a lot more cheaper, right? And unfortunately, that's what's contributing to obesity problem that we're seeing in Canada and the US. So, all in all, just remind yourself that it's okay to not finish your plate. Don't feel guilty about it, especially if it comes down to it. It's better that you save it over for leftovers the next day rather than put it into your body if you're not full, right? So save it for the next day, for meals next day, but don't force yourself to eat something, especially if you're full. So there's a Japanese saying, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce this because I know I'm going to butcher the pronunciation. So I'm not even going to try. But basically, the saying, it says it comes from part of Japan where they have honestly the longest life expectancy in the planet. And this saying basically says, don't eat or eat until you are 80% full. And that's it, right? So just don't fill yourself up. You want to make sure that it's at a good level. So tip number 4 is savor each bite. Now, I wish I could do this webinar in person and make it a seminar. I used to do that pre-COVID. We don't do too many of those anymore, but I used to do this exercise and people used to hate me for it, which was the chocolate exercise. I used to hand out a piece of chocolate to everyone and I would get them to not put it in their mouth right away, which was the torturous part of it. If anyone knows me, they know I love my chocolate, but I wouldn't let anyone eat it. I would, in fact, actually ask people to do what I call mindful eating, which is the TASTE acronym. So when you look at a food, and I did this with chocolate because it was really easy for us to actually monitor things, but what I used to do was have people look at the chocolate, feel the temperature. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it melting? You want to be doing this acronym with everything you eat. But again, we're using chocolate as an example. You want to smell the chocolate. Does it smell good? Does it have a good aroma? Does it have an emotional spark to anything? You want to uh, eat it slowly. So I would ask everyone to take just a small bite. And I want you to be mindful of how are you chewing it? Are you chewing it really fast? Are you chewing it really slow? You want to feel the texture. Is it like a Kit Kat with like a wafer, or is it a milk chocolate? So it's like really smooth. Like, what is it? And the experience. Is it sour, sweet, spicy, salty? What is your reaction? Do you enjoy it? Do you hate chocolate? Is it a surprise? What are the feelings that come to your mind? And this is something you should be doing pretty much with every meal. Of course, like I used chocolate, but I want you to do this with every meal. You want to be able to mindfully eat. If you do that, that 20 minutes that I mentioned at the beginning that you should be doing is going to go by super quick, right? You want to pay attention when you eat anything. And the exercise that, we would do with the chocolate or any meal is mindful eating, right? You could try this at home with any meal, but basically you are able to enjoy your food better when you do that because your body will actually understand what you're eating and your body will digest it better. So bloating might improve as well. Tip number 5 is just sit down and just eat. Don't be distracted. So I know a lot of us indulge too much on chocolates, cookies, candy canes, other treats during the holidays because one, they look so cute. Like look at these gingerbread cookies, they're adorable. Or these little snowman things at the bottom. They're so cute. Of course we want to indulge in them. But we want to make sure that we are eating in a place where you're not distracted, right? So if you're in your car, if you're on the go, if you're talking to people too much, meaning that you're on the run, not in a eating setting, not around the dining table, not in an eating setting, but also like just on the run, watching TV, sitting on your computer, because chances are you're going to eat too much when you do that. So think about this. What are you doing when you're actually eating? Are you eating at your desk while sitting on your computer and doing work, answering emails, reaching deadlines? Are you eating while you're watching TV? Are you eating in the car? Or are you eating dinner at the table? Because if you are not eating dinner at the table in a social setting of food and you're doing something else, chances are you will likely eat more. The other chances is that when you're not paying attention, you will chew less, you will eat faster, you will eat more than you mean to, you won't taste your food well, and you'll end up eating less nutritious meals. Oops. Okay, so you want to pay attention. You want to make sure that you're not distracted while you're eating. You just want to sit down and just eat while you're working, TV, reading. I often tell people that, like someone will tell me, oh, I'm extremely bloated all the time. And yes, we've determined food sensitivities and we know that there's heartburn due to other reasons and we're addressing all of that. But I'm often like, what are you doing when you're eating? And, the busy mom will often tell me, oh, I drop off the kids and I'm sipping on coffee in the car and also eating a bagel that I just got from Tim Hortons. And I'm like, you're thinking of stressors, you're thinking of too much, you're watching TV, you're driving, you're doing all these other things that you shouldn't be doing when you are eating. You need to pay attention. You need to be aware and not be distracted. You want to use your five senses. So use that taste acronym that I talked about. You want to notice how your body is eating too quick or too slow, how much you're chewing, what the sizes of your bites are, and what you're putting on each forkful. And then how does your body feel after you eat? Be completely present in the moment, because eating bite by bite, you need to make sure that you're being mindful of it. And that's how you enjoy food better. That's how it's more nutritious. I can guarantee that you'll have less bloating. Even though, again, if there are other concerns causing your bloating or digestive concerns, those should be addressed. But this is a huge piece of it. Now, holiday number 6 tip is drink enough water. We don't drink enough water. I don't drink enough water. I always keep a glass right in front of me. If anyone can see me right now, I always keep a mug or a glass in front of me, because if it's in front of me, I'm more likely to remember it or have a cue to take a sip. So if you have water in front of you, take a sip with me, because I'm going to do it right now. Because we forget. We forget to drink water. We forget that we need to, especially when we're talking to others or we're busy running from one place to another. Now, this is a very easy calculator if you guys wanted to take a quick picture, or if you wanted to screenshot this or whatever at the moment. But you want to drink enough water because we are often dehydrated, and in the winter, we don't feel like drinking water because it's cold and it's gloomy and we're not all that thirsty. However, your body needs a lot of water, especially in the winter. That's why we get really dry. The air is no good. So you need a lot of water in general. But you can use this very simple calculator and figure out how much water you actually need. As a rule of thumb, I usually say 2 to 3 liters a day. Keep a water glass or a water bottle in front of you, and you're guaranteed to eat more than usual or drink more than usual, which is good. So again, you can use this calculator if that helps you. But ultimately, don't ignore your thirst. I'm guilty of this, and I'm not even going to say I'm perfect at this because I'm not. But we ignore the thirst signal very often, and eventually your body kind of gives up on you, and it stops sending you the thirst signal, but it still needs the water because you were thirsty and then you ignored it because you were busy, but it still needs the water. So what does it do instead? It actually gives you the hunger signal, with the hopes that you'll eat something that has some water content in it. So you might actually be overeating sometimes because you're actually thirsty, not hungry, right? And that might cause some overeating. So you want to stay well hydrated. It will prevent false hunger signals. And it also, of course, enough hydration has so many other benefits to our body. Our bodies need water. We're made up of more water than we are anything else. So keeping this in mind, you want to make sure that you incorporate this into your holiday eating, because be aware of when you're thirsty versus hungry. Don't grab a cookie from the cookie tin because you're feeling hungry. Drink a glass of water first. Make sure you're well hydrated. Probably a few minutes later, you won't want that cookie anymore. Or allow yourself to have a treat, but instead of just having the entire box of cookies, you might just have one because you're well hydrated. The other thing is holiday drinks. Holiday drinks are, again, beautiful. I'm all for the aesthetic look of things. I love it. And they're beautiful. They're tasty. It's that time of year you're just like, I'm going to allow myself to do this, which is great. However, you want to make sure that, one, you are making sure that's not too sweet, because we know sugary drinks are a huge source of liquid calories. Empty calories is what I like to call them, because they don't actually have a nutritious benefit to it. But also, it is giving you, so these are the calories if anyone's interested. To be honest, I'm one of those naturopathic doctors that I don't believe in counting calories. I don't think it helps anyone. I'm more about the type of food that you're putting in your body. I think that's more important. But if anyone's interested, you can take a look at the number of calories here. But what you want to do as a rule of thumb is, one, alcohol dehydrates you. Two, it gives you empty calories plus a lot of sugar that you shouldn't need, really. But every time you have an alcoholic drink, you need to give yourself a glass of water, and make it a rule of thumb. Glass of wine, glass of water, glass of wine, glass of water, margarita, water, martini, water. Like, I don't care what it is, it needs to be alternating. So holiday eating tip number 7. Any questions yet? I hope I'm not going too fast or too slow, or if anyone doesn't feel like I'm catching something. Okay, so number 7 here is don't go hungry. So when you go into like a party or anywhere, you often will go hungry, which is not the greatest idea. You want to make sure that you don't starve yourself, because you will likely eat a lot more sweets. And you'll also eat a lot more simple carbs, which actually don't fill you up. They just give you a short source of energy. So basically what you want to do, so let's go through this basic slide here. Simple carbs, which are things like sugar, white flour. Simple complex carbs are healthier carbs, such as whole grains and like potatoes, things that are healthier and not as processed. Quinoa, oats, those are all complex carbs. Whereas simple carbs are really, really processed. So sugar, white flour, et cetera, et cetera. These things will make you hungrier. You know that one donut, it actually increases total food intake by 80% that day if you have a donut in the morning. It's just a simple carb. It's not filling you up. It's just giving you intense gratification in the moment. It's not sustaining you for the entire day. So you don't want to go from starving to stuffed, because that's not likely going to benefit your blood sugar in any way or form. You want to make sure that if you are going into a party or a dinner party, that you've had your breakfast, lunch, like as you usually do. Don't starve yourself, because one, your chances of eating unhealthier foods go up. You eat faster, you eat too much, you'll eat everything and anything. You won't let your you won't let your brain get the cues that you're full, because you're just so hungry, you're eating everything. It will spike your blood sugar level in a negative way. I don't recommend intermittent fasting. It's not for everyone, as much as Google, or Dr. Google, I should say, will tell you intermittent fasting might not be for everyone. It actually might make you feel worse if you're not losing weight, because you're spiking that blood sugar every time you eat. And then the excess calories that you end up eating that you didn't need during that time, you end up storing it as fat. So you want to keep your blood sugar stable. You want to make sure that you have complex carbs in your meal. So you could have had that for lunch. Complex carbs, again, like I said, oats or quinoa, something like that, wild rice, rice cake with almond butter. Almond butter is a great healthy fat. You want to make sure that you are having these things during the day before your holiday meal. So if you have a big Christmas dinner set up, make sure you're not skipping breakfast and lunch. You're eating normally, healthy normally. You want to make sure you're including some sort of protein, which slows down the absorption of sugar. So you want to make sure you're having some sort of protein. Again, that could be eggs, it could be lentils, legumes, tofu, chickpeas. It could also be things like chicken or anything of that sort, right? You want to make sure that you're including these things in your diet. Holiday tip number 8, don't double dip. So we're very prone to being like, let's go back for seconds and thirds, because it's delicious. And I'm glad it's delicious. I'm glad you're enjoying your meal. However, you want to go in with a plan, right? You want to go in with a plan. You want to share this plan with others, and you want to plan for no seconds. You want to maintain a portion size that you normally eat while tasting everything. Take a little bit of everything. Put it on your plate and just say, okay, I'm done. I know I'm going to be full after this. I don't need to have seconds. I can have leftovers tomorrow, right? So when you're too hungry again, like I said, you're going to end up eating too much, but also if you go back for seconds, you're going to end up overeating even more. Eat slow, because if you do that, you won't be finished so quickly that you're watching everyone else eat. Just eat slow. Take the same time you would eat to take one serving as it would to take, or take the same time to eat one serving as it would to take two servings. Because if other people are going to go back for two servings, you don't want to just sit there and stare at their face, obviously. So eat slow. It's going to be that number one tip I told you earlier. Stop at half the plate. Wait for others to get their second serving if they want it, and you just don't. And that way, again, you're eating with everyone. Holiday tip number 9, share your dessert. No, that doesn't sound fun. I know it doesn't sound fun to me, but it's a good one. You don't need to have a slice of cheesecake and a tart and a scoop of ice cream and a piece of chocolate and a piece of pie. You don't need to have all of them. You can have maybe a couple of bites of each one and still be satisfied, right? So think about how much you need to be satisfied versus how much you want to eat. Of course, we all want to eat a big slice of pie or a big slice of cheesecake or a big scoop of ice cream, but do you need all of that to actually be satisfied? Like, enjoy it. This is the holiday season. I absolutely encourage everyone enjoying a little bit of their treats, but you may not need all of it. And my other big tip that I tell almost all my patients is if you are having dessert and you are struggling with insulin resistance, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obesity, or you're trying to lose weight but you can't, you want to always eat sweet things with a meal. You never eat dessert like an hour or two later because it's just going to spike your blood sugar. You always want to eat it with a meal which already had protein, fiber. So you want to make sure you're adding it right at the end of the meal so that way your blood sugar will be managed well. Share your dessert. Remember the mindfulness exercise. Do the TASTE acronym. Take the same time to eat that 1/3 piece of cake that someone may eat like 2 slices. Savor each bite. You'll experience more with less. Okay, so my last tip of the day is look around. You're not alone. You're not the only person trying to be healthy. Okay, share these tips with others. Tell people that you're trying to be healthy. Take it slow because chances are other people will look up to you or there's other people doing the exact same thing as well. People are becoming more and more conscientious of their like health and nutrition. And I guarantee if you look around and you'll see that there are more and more people at a party that are very similar to you. Hang out with those people, share your goals, right? Because the more you're able to say it out loud, the more people will respect you. And then the more guilty you'll feel if you don't reach those goals because you've actually shared those with other people. Make your friends accountable, make your family accountable, right? So tell people, and trust me, you're not alone. You're trying to be healthy, and so is someone else, for sure. That being said, enjoy your holiday season. Make sure that you don't skip out on certain things. If a treat brings you happiness, just remember you don't maybe need the entire treat, and you need to eat it right after a meal to help balance that blood sugar, and maybe you need to drink some water first, right? So little things. So my top 10 tips here were: eat slowly, be social, feel full 80% of the time. You want 80% of fullness, I should say. Savor each bite. Sit down and eat. Drink enough water. Start that today. That should not be a New Year resolution. That should be something you should be doing all the time. So start that today. Don't go hungry. Make sure you've had breakfast and lunch like you normally would so you don't overindulge at the end of the night. Don't double dip. So one serving's usually enough. Have leftovers the next day. Share your dessert with others and look around. You're not alone. We're in this together. So I hope that brings you guys a little bit of information, and hopefully that allows you to feel good and gives you a little bit of things to do, basically. But I hope this was informative. I didn't put down my contact information, so I apologize for that. I'll put that in the chat message here. So if anyone has any questions, or if you have any concerns, or if you have any questions about naturopathic medicine, I'm always happy to chat. But